Flint, and this is Conversations with Conservatives through Safe Wells TV on the Gold Coast in Australia. It's my great pleasure today to be speaking to Anne Nalder, who is the founder and president of the Small Business Association of Australia, which is a remarkable achievement. Anne, may I call you Anne?
You certainly may, David. Hi, how are you?
Well, thank you. And this is, as I say, a remarkable achievement. When did you first get the idea of forming the Small Business Association?
Well, this idea was actually a long, long time ago, many years ago. It was interrupted by the illness of my late husband and finally his death. So it's one of those things that once he passed away, I had put this project on hold at that time. But once he passed away, it was almost like unfinished business, that I knew that I had to do something because it kept nagging at me. And the reason that I had thought about this organisation, or this type of organisation, was I felt there was a void in the marketplace. Whilst there are a lot of great organisations and doing a great job, I didn't feel that the real issues of small business were being addressed, nor was there an understanding of small business, and that's probably the problem. So that's where it all began.
And you have a really professional website there, smallbusinessassociation.com.au.
Yes.
And going through that, I was really fascinated with what you're trying to achieve and your purpose.
It is. We have a long way to go yet. And it's like any business where it's developed on an annual basis. We go to the next level. So currently what we do, we provide very, very similar services on the one hand to some of the other organisations, like, say, business luncheons, workshops and things like that. But one of the great difference between us and other organisations is we have formed the very first think tank in Australia. And the think tank is relating solely to small business. And it is here that we, as I mentioned, we are totally different from other organisations. And through the think tank, we do intend to show government where they need to go with good policy and so forth. And one of our initiatives is we are currently working on the Small Business Charter, and we are launching that next year at Southern Cross University.
And you also produce a number of white papers, do you not, on specific
We have certainly
issues?
done that, yes, yes.
And as you say, there are a substantial number.
Yeah.
Now, the Charter
Yes.
will be a statement of what are the aspirations of small business and the association?
More than that, the idea of the Charter, and it's based on the European Union model, not entirely, but it follows their concept, their idea. And the European Union, the idea was to bring out a document, and the two things that particularly impressed me with the European Union model is that they use the think small first principle, which means that when governments and policymakers particularly are creating policy for small business, or for anybody that is, they must think of how it will affect small business at the end of the day. So, and the second part is that in the European Union model, they have a set day annually whereby when governments decide to bring in a new set of laws, for example, relating to small business, currently it's happening just about every day, all the time. We can't even keep up with it. So what we do is it would be a set date annually. That allows small business to plan. As you know, in business, you can't keep changing the goalpost every 5 minutes. They need certainty and they need stability. So they're the two principal things that will be in the Charter. But more than that, the Charter will provide the framework, if you can call it there, for policymakers of how to create good policy. Because currently we've got bits and pieces of policy. You know, we have a Band-Aid solution here and we'll do a cut here and a nip and a tuck there. But there's no long-term plan, never has been in this country. We've never had a long-term economic plan of where we're going, what needs to be done, and how we need to encourage the growth of small business, because that's the key to our prosperity. It's also the key to our exports.
What would you say is the likely size of small business from the point of view of the organisation? Do you measure it in terms of turnover, or is it the number of employees? What is your rough
Well,
decision?
we like to use, I don't know if you are aware, but there's about 27 models of what a small business should be in Australia. Just about every state government and every state government department has one particular, they've got all different models. The ATO has a different one, Assoc has a different one, and all the other regulators have different ones as well. So once again, it's a very confusing thing. What we use, at this point, we prefer the ATO's model, which is by staffing, by the number of staff that you employ. For example, 0 up to, say, 3 inclusive is categorised as a micro business, then 4 to 19 inclusive as a small business, and then 20 to 200, which is a very, very large number. That is classified as medium enterprises, and beyond that, of course, we go into large corporations. But SME, so we prefer to use, the ATO's model.
Do you find that when governments introduce legislation, that they take into account its impact on small business?
We don't think so. Because if we did, because a lot of the policies, and this is something that's going to be discussed and worked upon at the summit next year, but there's so many things happening at the moment that really is an impediment to small business. We've got very, very bad bankruptcy laws. There's a serious problem with finance and funding. There's a whole range of areas. There's red tape. We've got draconian law. And outdated rules and regulations. So they are impediments to small business. And one of the reasons could be that most politicians don't understand what small business is all about, and they don't understand what needs to be done. They say, many of them will say that their parents or somebody's been in a small business, but in reality they haven't. So therefore because they don't understand, they can't create good policy regarding small business in this country. And we need to do that.
The experience of politicians is probably more limited today than in previous parts of Australian history, because so many seem to come through as advisors and so on, apparatchiks in the political parties, and then they get a safe seat. So that must aggravate the problem.
It does, and I'll tell you what, a lot of them, and I know that you've got a law background, and I don't mean to be offensive with law backgrounds, but everybody who goes into, just about nearly everyone that's going into Parliament has a law background. And this may be a good thing on one hand, but on another, I don't think, because it's limited, we've got a number of limited politicians with different backgrounds, it doesn't provide the opportunities to create good, policy. Also, what happens today is, and you're right, you've got young people going from university straight, like working for MPs, then they go into Parliament, so they've got no life skills or experiences. We also have the public service, for example, who a lot of them don't have life skills as well, and they are the people that are making the rules and regulations for small business. We believe that they should actually have a number of years of experience out in the private sector, so that when they go into the public sector, they have an understanding of what they need to do to create better policy and conditions for small business. There's just simply too much red tape because they don't understand what has to be done. What works in theory doesn't work in practice.
This is really fascinating. Mm-hmm. I'm talking with Nalder, who's the foundation president of the Small Business Association of Australia, and now we'll go to a break.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I've said, good evening tonight, and thank you very much for coming here. One of our key objectives is to be the voice of small business and have given a lot of thought as to how we go about it.
I've met Anne a couple of years ago through business contacts, been graphic design support for her. She's very enthusiastic and motivated, and I had no hesitation in joining the Small Business Association to be part of what she's trying to do and achieve and help small business to grow and succeed.
We intend to raise the bar on discussion as to why small business is important to the economy.
Bond University is very proud to be a major sponsor of the SBAA. We're very proud of the work that the SBAA and Anne does to connect business on the Gold Coast, across Queensland, across the country.
We have a team that will research the areas of international trade and tariffs, Assoc and ATO compliance, banking and finance, the ACTU, the myriad of legislation, licences from the State Offices of Fair Trading, and we will define what we believe a small business is. We look at business incentives, industrial relations and global trends around the world in goods, services and products, and which markets are growing, that is the luxury market, the middle market, etc.
Cronin Litigation are proud supporters of the Small Business Association of Australia and very strong proud supporters of Anne Nalder, the founder of the association, who does a fantastic job with these events.
So ladies and gentlemen, what we propose to do is prepare a paper based, and it'll be an exciting and vibrant paper on our research that will outline the problems, the solutions and what the expected outcome can be and how we can do it.
These lunches or breakfasts is excellent because they allow you to mix with similar like-minded people.
I'm the Managing Director of Sabre Corporate Development. We're very happy to be one of the sponsors tonight. It's wonderful to be able to support an association that advocates and supports small business, and it's great to be able to support this evening's event, which has gone very well, very enjoyable, met some great people, and thanks to Anne and the association for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Australia is the land of opportunity, the land of the immigrant hosting a wealth of knowledge, entrepreneurship and talent and ready to give it a go. But we are not only being held back, but we are being strangled by the system, and it's a system we have to change.
It's good to be part of the Small Business Association of Australia's National Conference. This is an opportunity to recognise the contribution of small businesses to our country. Australia depends on its small businesses. Almost 1 in 2 of our people work in small business, and small business is at the heart of our communities and the heart of our national economy. After all, you can't have strong communities without strong economies, and you can't have strong economies without profitable private businesses. As for the government, our business is to make it easier for your business. The carbon tax is gone, the mining tax is gone. We've announced measures to cut $2 billion in red tape costs this year alone. We're reducing company tax, and we're conducting a root and branch review of competition policy, because small business and big business should be on a genuinely level playing field. And we've created the Small Business Helpline and are creating a dedicated Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman. It's all part of the government's economic action strategy to build a strong, prosperous economy for a safe and secure Australia. I acknowledge the work of the Small Business Association of Australia and wish everyone a most productive conference.
I'm David Flint. This is Conversations with Conservatives over Safe Worlds TV. I'm talking to a very fascinating and interesting lady who's the founder of the Small Business Association of Australia. She's the CEO and she's Ann Nalder, and she's telling us about the Small Business Association of Australia. Welcome back, Ann.
Thank you, David.
And I'd like to ask you about your team, because I was looking at your website, Small Business Association, that's association in full, all one word, smallbusinessassociation.com.au. I noticed you have quite a team there.
We have a lot of people involved with us these days. We've got a very good advisory board. We have people. There are currently 7 directors on board there. They've got wonderful skills. For example, Lionel Barden, who's the chair of our small business policy, he's been very, very proactive within the organisation. He used to be on the Reserve Bank board for small business, for example. So we've got a lot of people of that calibre involved with us who've got a great background and great experience to do with small business. Going back to Lionel again, he's an engineer by profession, and he's also he's lived and worked in many countries around the world, and he's into manufacturing, for example. Very much believes that we can do it in Australia, which we do, which I personally do as well. And he loves the Singapore model, for example, with a lot of in the economic area. So we have, as I said, a very experienced team of people. We are setting up, I suppose you might call them chapters around Australia, and that is to do with the think tank. There's a lot of interest there in, if there was about 1,000 clones of me and I could travel around Australia in all the time, we could set up chapters all over Australia, because there is, as I mentioned, a great deal of interest where people want to be proactive and actually have a voice. We have various committees, and I've also got 2 staff members that work full-time with me. Now, we don't have a big team as far as a lot of office staff go, but we're very, very proactive. We work very well, and we do a lot of work there. So I'm very, very fortunate to have such a good, team of people surrounding us, because we have one common cause, and that is for the betterment of this economy, which can only be done through small business. So yes, I'm very, very lucky.
I suppose a lot of employment is created by small business.
In Australia, small business is the single largest employer in the private sector. There's something like nearly 5 million people are employed in small business around Australia. Now, if you count the number of people, if you count just even one person, such as the owner of these businesses, there's about 2.1 million of these small businesses. You're looking at about, say, 6 or 7 million people involved. That's minimum, involved in small business in Australia. So you can't ignore that. And it is the only sector that can reduce your employment rate. And this is something that we're working on, because there are things that we think that can be done, but we have to create the climate, the environment for them to take on staff.
If people are interested in the organisation, I suppose they should go to the website and they can become members, I assume.
They certainly can. They go to the website, click onto membership, select the category that they wish, and there are 2 categories. One is a smaller category, and that's more or less geared for startups and those that have just gone into small business or thinking of going into small business. And then you have the premium one, which is the category for more advanced, business owners. So there are 2, and just follow the prompts, and it's automated.
And you have members, I suppose, all across Australia.
All over Australia.
You're encouraging them to get together in chapters and committees. And
we do. We communicate. That's the wonderful thing to do with technology, because we communicate, whether it's by phone or whether it's by any other means. We have a newsletter that goes out monthly, and it goes out to around 200,000, which is that's Australia-wide, which is made up of members, stakeholders and other people that like to read our newspapers. So we do get the message out there by all means.
200,000 is a considerable circulation.
It's a very, very big lot, and we hope to grow it even further. For example, we've just recently had one other organisation, the Finance Brokers Association of Australia, join us.
Are they the people that you go to when you want to buy a house?
Yes. anything to do with finance. But
Yes.
we've got other member organisations that are members of ours as well. So we've got a mixture there within our membership.
Just that reference to the finance brokers just put something into my mind, and that is how a whole new segment of small business has been created. Once upon a time, you used to go to a bank. You'd pick a bank and you'd go to them. Now you go to a finance broker and he or she tells you they try to give you the best deal. And it's an interesting development of small business expertise, isn't it?
It is. And well, the reason for that is actually because like years ago, not too many years ago, we actually had only a few banks. That was about it. But today you've got so many credit unions. You've got all sorts of, type of businesses offering finance. And we're also moving out of the conventional type of finance as well. One of our major sponsors, for example, they started off the program in Australia about offering short-term finance to small business owners, whereby there is no security required. Now, there's no tricks or anything like that in it or gimmicks. It's a legitimate, loan offer, and I think it's fantastic because the days of when people should be offering their home up as security is wrong. Actually, there are better ways of doing it. And so they've started it. So there's other organisations, other business credit providers doing the same thing as well. And now the big banks are also using the same sponsor, for example, to offer finance to their clients who don't fit the bank model. So it's getting a little bit easier.
That's very interesting. I'd never heard of that. I thought when you wanted a loan, they always required real estate security for a loan. So it's interesting that in the small business area, you can now get loans without having to give up your home, for example.
Well, this is, mind you, this is short term we're talking about, and we're not talking about big amounts of money. So if you still need to go to get very large amounts, it's still you have to probably approach the banks. And yes, security will be required. But if you need short-term finance, for example, for your cash flow and things like that, this is a great alternative.
It's very sad when you sometimes go into an arcade and you see a shop's there and they've opened up and a few months later they've gone, and they think, oh, the poor people, they've probably lost everything because it didn't work. Do you offer some sort of advice for people starting a new business?
Yes, we do. There's a couple of things here. There's an onus also on business owners, or particularly people who are trying to go, or they're thinking of going into business. You really do have to do a few checks and balances, and a lot of people, unfortunately, they go in boots and all. They don't think too much, or they don't check a few things out. They don't also have enough capital behind them. This is one of the major problems of failure. So they don't have enough capital behind them, and of course they don't check out the environment as well. So we do have for people who become new members, they're thinking of going into business, for example, we will spend hours with them going through what we call a checklist. And all of our sponsors, for example, depending on what type of business they're in, will offer a certain amount of free advice to the new member. And so, but it is also up to the new member to check out things, but a lot of them don't do it. The failure rate is very high. We've actually got one of the highest failure rates at the moment. It's really quite sad, and that's including bankruptcy as well. It's really very, very high at the moment. And that is due to our economy is quite flat, regardless of whatever figures are brought out, but we are tracking along in a weak position, and of course that makes it harder. One of the problems is that if consumers don't spend, or if consumers don't support local businesses, you will find that money, that business is missing out on potential revenue. So we need to be aware of support where we can. We don't need to support businesses simply because they are local, but they should be good businesses. So we need to support good businesses where possible.
This is very interesting. You're obviously on top of all of this. This is Conversations with Conservatives. I'm speaking to Ann Nalder, who's the founder and CEO of the Small Business Association of Australia, and it's over Safe Worlds TV. We're now going to a break.
Hello everyone, I'm Paul Higgins, and welcome to Safe Worlds TV, the global marketplace, the world leader in internet TV and semantic search, the home of free enterprise, the level playing field that all the world can use for electronic business. With Safe Worlds TV, every business in every country of the world can now be involved in the world economy. There are no barriers to entry. Even the poorest countries and the smallest businesses can be involved. The system is simple. Every country divides into 12 headline channels. Every channel is a gateway to an unlimited number of related community channels. Every community is a social network and a marketplace to sell products and services. There is no limit to the number of businesses that can be connected into a marketplace. There is no limit to the number of products you can sell. All our channels and marketplaces are designed to keep you entertained and to help you do internet business at a cost that everyone can afford. The amazing semantic technology that underpins Safe Worlds TV allows us to deliver this amazing system to the world. It allows us to accommodate millions of TV channels and marketplaces and to link them together into the global marketplace. The vast global marketplace that we are building is the final piece of the electronic global village. This is the ultimate achievement of the internet. What you see here now is only the tip of the iceberg of semantic services that are coming. Come now and see what we've already got. Choose any country of the world, then select the headline channel that you want to explore. Just point and click and follow the logical tree structure. We think you'll be amazed at what we already have in Safe Worlds TV. When you're ready, click on the button at the bottom of the screen and register to become a user. You can start immediately to create your very own internet TV channel. Enjoy the experience. I'm Paul Higgins for Safe Worlds TV.
I'm David Flint. The program is Conversations with Conservatives. It's through Safe Worlds TV. And I'm speaking with Ann Nalder, who is the founder and CEO of the Small Business Association of Australia. And if you want to read more about this, do go to the website. It's Small Business Association, in full, smallbusinessassociation.com.au, and I'm sure you'll find this a very interesting website. I certainly did. And now I'd like to ask you, Anne, if I may, what really motivates you? Why did you decide to establish this?
Well, I've always been interested in small business. I've been in business myself for over 30 years. And you know, sometimes in life there is something that where you have a common interest, or you fit in, or you understand something. And this type of organisation is exactly that. I don't know if that makes any sense to you or not, but it's something, it's like my mission in life to do this. As I mentioned to you before, we've got serious issues in this country relating to small business. And this is the thing that motivated me, because I want to see this country prosper. And you can't prosper if you don't have good policies. And as I mentioned earlier, we've had a mismatch of policies over the years, and it's simply not working. So we have to try something new. We have to try a more orderly approach in how we create a better environment. So that is what's motivated me, because I'd like to see all Australians have the opportunity to create their own wealth, the opportunity for every child to have a great education, because if we want to lift people out of poverty, out of welfare, we have to start, for example, with education. And one of our areas is actually in education, where we believe we have to start teaching entrepreneurship and small business in schools at a very early age. And so this is what's motivated me to get this going, because it's there are some projects going in some of the schools, but not the way it should be. And I think if we can educate every child and educate them well, we provide that opportunity. So yes, the motivation for me is to see people have a good standard of living, to live in harmony, to have opportunities, and to be able to also then do something for their country at the end of the day.
Big business has a voice, obviously. They have the resources.
Yes.
They can speak direct to government. Those who are, and I'm not being denigratory in any way of them, but those who are in trade unions,
yes, in
certain fields of employment, they also have a voice. But what does small business have?
Well, we have, small business does actually have a voice in with government. Not all of them, but some do. And I think it depends on how you conduct yourself and what you take to the government. MPs don't like being asked to probably do something. They like to have something presented to them to make it easier for them. Now, we have a voice in government. In our short time that we've been operating, we are one of a number of organisations where Treasury actually talks to us when they're looking at doing certain things relating to small business, because Treasury also they do small business policy. It's not the small business minister, for example. So we are consulted. We're also consulted by private corporations who act on behalf of the government when they want to hear things. So yes, so we're not. So we are actually talking to government, and we're very proud of that, and we aim to do even a lot more in the very near future.
Are you encouraging governments to employ local small business? One of the criticisms I remember of one of the projects, one of the big projects, the schools project, the building the better education project of the Rudd government, was that a lot of the contracts went to big business and then they didn't employ local small business.
That is always the case, and that's unfortunate. That is something that needs to be looked at. The same happened, for example, with the census. There's a company, I suppose I'm allowed to mention, which IBM, for example, is a very large US company. And on the international side, outside of America, they do something like about $40+ billion worth of business. And one of a couple of the areas that they do is they do all of the major contracts, like the census, the IT program. They did the Queensland Health, the software program, which was a very, very bad, program. And they also do payroll, for example, for our large corporations. It's actually done offshore for the large corporations. That's the Australian corporations that pay their staff here in Australia. It's done by IBM. So yes, they do have. So there's a lot of offshoring. Also on the offshoring side of it, though, we've got small business owners that are actually offshoring overseas to countries like the Philippines, for example. We have, and I don't know whether people are aware of this, and I'm talking about things like bookkeeping, accountancy, office work, that type of thing, because you can get it done at a fraction of the cost that you get it done in Australia. So it's not only big business that reaps those rewards, but it's small business also that's sending businesses offshore. So the answer to all of that is I totally agree that we need to employ local people where possible, and I think we need to look at this and work out a program, but we also need to make sure that small business owners in Australia are actually geared up to cope with a global market, which I don't believe we're ready for that. I don't have any figures to back that up, but that's something that I notice in my talks with other small business owners and what I see around the place. So that's a bit of a tricky one. But I still would like to have support, though, for local stuff.
And this is obviously an enormous job. You've got a really remarkable portfolio there. But what you I assume have some spare time. What do you do outside of the Small Business Association?
Well, believe it or not, my work is my hobby. I love this, what I'm doing. It really is a passion of mine. I don't find it boring. I find it very challenging. We're going into the next stage, which will be research, and research in itself is very, very fascinating. We're, for example, having alliances created with large corporations who are supporting what we're doing, which may seem very strange. But there's a lot of exciting things, and these exciting things are going to be put onto our website. For example, we're doing things with India to do with international trade. So we'll be having a page about international trade on India. We've formed close relationships with China to provide opportunities, and this will also apply to back up small business owners in those particular countries. So there's a lot of things going on. So as we progress with new initiatives, we will have these listed on our website, and there's a lot to go up there at the moment.
So what would you hope to achieve, say, in 5 years' time?
Well, if I don't achieve anything else at all, but we get the Small Business Charter accepted by government, and we have got a lot of support, I must hasten to add, that'll be a major achievement, because that'll be not only for 3 years or 6 years, but that's going to be for decades to come. So that's a long-term thing, and that will cover so many areas of small business. So the very areas that we're talking about, international trade, jobs in Australia, for example. I personally don't like us giving away large contracts overseas, because there are issues there, for example. So all of these things, including finance and so forth, will be covered in the Small Business Charter.
Well, Anne, I could speak to you for hours on this. It's so fascinating. Unfortunately, time has caught up with us. I've been speaking with Anne Nalder, the founder and CEO of the Small Business Association of Australia. The website is Small Business Association in full, smallbusinessassociation.com.au. I do encourage you to go and look at that, particularly if you're in small business or thinking of going into small business, because there's a lot of wisdom on that site and a lot of very helpful advice. And Nalder, thank you very much for giving us your time. I hope we can talk again.
Thank you so much.